Hi, David. Welcome to Turning Pages. I'm so happy to have you here with us today. David is an entrepreneur, a follower of Christ, and is in the music industry, 25 years old, and he's conquering the music industry, with his music and with his worship. So, welcome to the podcast. How did your journey start? You're 25 years old.
That's right. Yes. First off, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor and a privilege to be on here with you. It's my first podcast I'm speaking. I've always wanted to do this, so thank you so much for having me. So you said, when did my music journey first start? Yeah. So for me, my music journey first started when I was 8 years old. I did grow up in a musical household. Being a church kid, there was always church music and such playing in the household, which is great music. But I think a lot of people kind of know there's kind of something about like other styles and other influences of music as well that are really, really expressive too. And so at that time when I was 8 years old, it was mostly church music I was hearing, in the house, praise and worship. And even though I liked it too, my uncle Carlendo, to be specific, was the one who gave me a Michael Jackson 5 Greatest Hits CD. And it was just some about that just lit that spark in me. And man, it was like the rest is history from there. I just started singing the songs naturally, and yeah, that's how I found my voice.
So, are you pursuing the music full time now? Are
Not
you in the studio full time, or is it something that you're actively trying to master?
Yeah, I guess you could say it's something I'm actively trying to master. So I do work and everything, have a regular 9 to 5 and such. And I went to college. I'm searching for a career job. I was a design major, so I'm still looking for a design job. But I guess you could say I'm a jack of many trades. So I do like music on the side, and I also do design work, like visual design work. And I also love to run track as well. So I'm kind of trying to find a way to pursue all three, and I guess we'll just see what the Lord does with whichever one and which one is going to be the primary career for me.
Okay, so you're definitely taking the creative feel. Like you have that
Yeah.
creative thing in you for be doing design and also the singing. Now, what has your journey, because you responded to the post concerning entrepreneurship and faith, right? Your journey with Christ. And so how has your relationship with God shaped the decisions that you make or even the songs that you create or the art that you make?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, my relationship with the Lord is what really shapes and molds everything about me as a person. Jesus is at the center of who I am and what I am, and everything else stems from that. So moralistically and just who I am as a person. So trying to do things, in such a way that's pleasing to the Lord, in such a way that's not like vulgar or that's shameful or like contradictory to my faith or to anything the Lord stands for. And just trying to model myself after things of him really. So that's why, it's like my music doesn't have any cussing in it and it's not doesn't have anything explicit. And even if it's social media posts or just how I conduct myself speaking to others, I just try my best not to do anything of that sort either. I just want to try to conduct myself in a way that's godly. So that's definitely the bedrock of it and where it all stems from.
Now, were you all always like this, or did you have a phase where you were rebellious, and not so obedient?
That's funny. Well, I would probably say since I was old enough to know and understand like what this meant and like what being a follower of Christ means really. Um, and according to my mom and just kind of thinking about like when I was little, I think I would say really probably to answer your question directly, I'd say yes in some form because the fact that when we're little, of course we're not really thinking about a whole lot of too deeply of what we're doing, but being raised in like a Christian household, my parents raised me right. And I was staying out of trouble as a little kid and just was I was being a kid. I wasn't doing anything bad, but I think that just as I got older, I think I just continued to just grow in that and just become more aware of it. And I just more explicitly said to myself, okay, I'm not gonna do this and that, which I wasn't already doing, but just said, okay, this is a baseline standard I'm gonna establish for myself now, just to know for myself, like, hey, this is what I do and do not stand for. And yeah, that's where that went from.
Now, being pursuing the music industry, I mean, you mentioned that you don't do anything vulgar. You're mindful of the posts that you post. I know today in today's world, we're all about the clicks and the likes.
Yeah.
And the music industry, I mean, there's so much talk about Hollywood and different, we can go deep into this at another time, like the satanic rituals and the,
Yeah.
all of these different things. But it's the music industry is one like industry, that there's a lot of profanity, and you can get so caught up and be like, let me just maybe just please them a little bit, please the crowd a little bit. So how do you deal with that? Like, do you ever deal with it to be like, okay, and how do you stop yourself from like, let me know not go down that road? Because with social media, it's so easy to get sucked up into thinking you need to be like that.
Yeah, yeah, you're so right. It is so easy for one to do that. I know some people who, do music like from high school, and there were some who was like I knew them to be a nice, solid, wholesome person. And then I heard some music that they were making, and it was kind of some things that were saying that didn't really sound like them. And I was a bit surprised, I think, just because like, whoa, like where's this coming from? But I think to your point, it probably is one of those things where it's like because of the fact that that's kind of a lot of the culture that we live in, especially musically with what's trendy and what's popping and what's really catching like younger ears, so to speak. That's how that goes. But for me, I would say, man, I think just since I was little, I feel like now as I've gotten older too, like I've just been seeing more and more that that I'm just different from everyone else and that God has made me different. And instead of fighting against that, I'm embracing it. I had people who made fun of me when I was little for the way I talked and for the way I acted. And they would sometimes say some out of pocket things to me that were kind of off-putting or would ask some really bold questions that wouldn't come up in a natural conversation. And looking back, I realized, it's because of the fact that, like I said, I was just raised different and I was acting on that back then. And, they didn't really know how to take that. So I think to that point, I've just absent-mindedly kind of always been my own person, that God's made me to be. And I thank God for it. I think it's a strength and something that's needed. And I'm just glad it just continued to further develop as I got older.
Right. So you mentioned they would have said things about you, right, growing up. Around what age would this have been?
Yeah, this would have been when I was in junior high. So about probably 11, 12 years old or so, sixth, seventh grade.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. And what about your adult years? Like, have you had any encounters with, let's say, other people or just situations on the whole where they're discrediting your character?
Not actually, I would say now, not even. I think in a lot of ways, it's so funny. I think that's the beauty of time, just how time can transform a person for better or worse. And I think with a lot of people, I mean, I had a lot of good people around me, thankfully, since I was little, coming from a good neighborhood. But man, especially when I went to college, like there were, everybody's different when you go to college. I went to UIC, University of Illinois, Chicago. Shout out to them. And I'm in the Chicagoland area, Chicago, Illinois, for those who don't know. But when I got to college specifically, say for example in junior high and like high school, sometimes there were things where maybe even my fashion, where say if I were to like wear a shirt with the shirt tucked into my pants, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that for like an everyday outfit just because of the fact that it wasn't a lot of people doing that and it was different. So to that point back then, stuff like that, people would make fun of you and other ways in which I was different. But when I got to college, we've got all these foreign exchange students, we've got Asians, Koreans, and they've just got a crazy, and when I say crazy, I mean like a really creative, sense of fashion, like bright orange beanies and something like, say, a black trench coat and maybe some orange shoes that match or something like that. And it was really like sparking the artist within me. So to that point, when I got older, by the time I got to college, I felt like people, they really accepted me even more. And it was just a whole new crop of people and everybody was different, so it was a beautiful thing to have that fresh start and have them accept me for me.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing too from your story is this is what the product looks like when the parents are Christian and they're raising their kids with
Yes.
their Christian values. Now, this is the product that you get. You get you're strong inside, you're confident,
Mhm.
and you're obedient and you are secure in who you are as a person and you are different, but you're not different in a rebellious sense or different as an
Right.
outcast or anything like that. Because from what you like, from I'm listening to your story and I'm like, I'm what the words that are coming to me is like good parenting,
Yeah.
like really good parenting and good stewardship.
Yeah.
That's what's coming to me,
Yeah.
so that is really good to see. Do you mentor anyone younger than you?
I don't, but I'd say coming up when I was little, being obviously being a believer, and sometimes kind of like seeing some friends around me who maybe I was close to or really cared about, and kind of seeing maybe they were doing some unruly things, like kind of trying to fight people and trying to argue with people all the time. I'd kind of just talk to them like, just friend to friend, like, hey man, I wouldn't go around doing that if I were you. That's kind of not really going to lead you to a good route, and like that's gonna just kind of catch up to you at the end of the day, if you keep doing this. And I would say it in a nice way. And I think that there were some times here and there where maybe I did come on a bit strong, but of course, like I said, sometimes when we're young, we kind of twist and kind of misperceive some things and what's the best way to go about them. But I'd say just over the years, like just as a friend and just as a person, sometimes with these heart-to-heart conversations, just forming that relationship first with people and showing them like, hey, like I'm not here to judge you, no matter how different you are. Like, and I think because of the fact that I had that experience where I felt judged and criticized so much for being different, it's one of those things where it's like I think it only strengthened the care and that part of me that says, hey, like be sure you accept others as they are and understand as you deepen your relationship with them, there's a right way to say certain things to them to help them. So I've certainly kind of helped friends in that regard, over the years. And even some of them have come up to me and said, hey, I notice how you don't, you don't cuss or anything when you talk, or you don't do this, you don't do that, and they're like, I admire that, So sometimes even just by being myself, some have said, I really admire that. And they're like, I want to be more like that too. So it's been a little bit of both, just kind of as a friend, kind of helping them in a positive level.
Well, that's great. You're like kind of like lead by example um thing. So I wanted to ask you concerning the music. Now, how has God shaped your music? Like how would you ex describe it in a sense? I know you said like it started in the church, you started, at 8 years old at home, the Michael Jackson. How is it now? What part does God play now in the music today at 25 years old?
Yeah, I would say that now, God is still everything, in and with the music. For me now, I think just having grown up and just having expanded to having heard like other influences like that, that are still wholesome, like that Michael Jackson, like you were saying, like some Jackson 5, something that's still wholesome, something that's still pure and something that's still, putting out good fruit, it might not always be some like maybe in your face religious, but sometimes if you think about it, even other songs, whether they be inspirational or even just, someone singing about how much they love their wife or their family, that's still God's fruit, And so thinking about that, it's one of those things where I would say really, and even as I grew up more and as my interests and persona kind of expanded, you know, I think it was kind of my conviction where the Lord kind of put it on my heart, like stay with my faith in such a way that I stay true to who I am and don't compromise with saying or doing things that aren't right, like in the music. And certainly I love to sing about the Lord as well, but also He's given me that conviction to also make just fun songs, that are just positive, uplifting, or even about like, hey, like this is what happened, like this experience really hurt me, or I went through this and I want to talk about it, and still doing it in a way that's with integrity and with wholesomeness, and it's one of those things where whether you're folding your clothes at home or even if it is like I don't know if you're in church or if you're trying to listen to some gospel music, just one of those things where it's like you don't have to think about is this good for me, but you just it's some wholesome and every message has good fruit and good godly fruit to offer that's still enriching the person.
I actually like that you said that because sometimes when we get into um, religion and we think about music, we think about, okay, it's secular music,
Yeah,
and we think we are only supposed to listen to worship music, not knowing that there's other music out there that is still um, healthy,
yeah,
I guess,
yeah,
in a way, healthy to listen to.
yeah,
And it could still bring a nostalgic feeling or a happy feeling. And it's and like you said, it's still it comes from a good place. There's no cussing, there's no swearing, there, vulgar stuff or anything like that. So I'm actually really happy that you mentioned that because I, for one, I mean, every now and then I really like old school R&B,
yeah,
and I grew up in the 90s, so I like old rap,
yeah,
right? Old
yeah,
hip hop and
yeah,
stuff like that. So, I mean, I have kind of drifted away from my like for Eminem and
yeah.
Lil Wayne,
I can understand that.
right? And stuff like that. I mean, Biggie Smalls and stuff like that,
Yeah, yeah,
But every so often I'll go into, my old school R&B or whatnot. But I like that you're producing music where it's not necessarily, it probably wouldn't be put into a genre of worship, right?
yeah,
It would be probably hip hop or R&B,
yeah. It's almost
right?
gospel, or that's it. I should probably say contemporary Christian.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So I kind of actually like that because I didn't even think at one point, like we were talking and I was just like, wait, I didn't even think that there's an other sector of music it's still healthy for me to
yeah.
consume. I don't have to feel guilty about
Right.
it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It gets to be a pretty deep thing, I feel, with some people. And man, I think kind of just like I was saying, just kind of one of those things where sometimes it just goes to show how everyone's story really is just different, because you have those who may say, "Oh, I'm just only gonna do this one genre," and that's fine, but at the same time, sometimes you think about it, and man, it could. Sometimes I even think to myself, like, man, I feel like maybe the Lord even put all these different influences and different genre influences in my music and in me for the sake of trying to better push His principles to other genres and other airways where someone wouldn't listen to it simply because it was branded Christian. Like maybe it might take for it to be labeled as something else and to be put on a mainstream radio for the Lord to touch somebody's heart, and kind of captivate them and, just show somebody like, hey, like this can be done, you can do this and sing about other things, and have it be done with integrity and with godliness, and so I think that's just the difference, and that's just where it's at for me. Just something real, being real as a person and just as a believer.
So what do you have stored for the upcoming music? What's in store for you? And do you find the music industry hard?
Yeah. So for first off, what's in store for me is I'm currently working on an album, the debut album. It's gonna be called Up from the Trenches. And basically what that's about is that's about, overcoming challenges. So starting down low, like you're in the trenches, like down below the surface and working yourself from a low place to a high place. So I'm really excited about that. I'm almost done with it. Got a couple more songs to go. Got a good friend of mine named Cbro, who's one of my producers that has been working with me in the stew, coming with my guy Plu Harmon, who's my audio engineer, and I got like a vocal coach as well from my family-owned school of music, that I've been working with. So they've been helping and breathing life into it as well. And also, as far as like if I feel as if the music industry is hard, I would say I can't really say for sure. I think just because the fact that it's like I'm still an underground artist, so to speak, and I haven't
Mm.
necessarily been pushed out into the mainstream like that. Of course, I kind of ask myself, like, man, what would I do in these situations if this or that were to come up? But I think it just kind of goes back to just saying, well, I need to just make sure I just continue to just forever and always stick with the Lord's calling and just where He's leading me and what He's leading me to do. And, just take it step by step, be in prayer and talk to those with experience and who, are kind of on the same page as me and just kind of figure out what's the best way to go from there.
So currently, are you doing like gigs at different places in Chicago?
Every now and then I do some, like say if there's open mics. I did more open mics than I could count at my school, UIC. There's so many people who even sometimes when I go up there to visit, they're like, "Oh, hey man, I remember you from the open mics, you're always doing your thing up there and stuff like that." And so at the moment, I've kind of had a few things here and there, some open mics. I just sang in my music school, my family-owned music school called Music Net School of Music. Shout out to them, their winter recital at the end of last year. That was a big moment for me, and I'm currently actively looking for other open mics and such in the area to keep pushing my gift out there.
Okay, nice. So what has inspired you, right? What can you tell the audience about your journey, that your walk with Christ, your entrepreneurship into this music industry, and even your marketing, your creative lifestyle? What inspires you? What gets you going? Like, what tools do you use
Hmm.
to help you in that creative space?
Hmm. Like as far as softwares or something go, or like apps?
No, in terms of your um self-development, are there any tools
Oh.
that you use, like in terms of like, do you journal? Do you put on praise and worship? Like what gets you in that energetic, creative flow to say, okay, I'm doing this? Like what gives you that, that
Oh.
push?
Uh-huh.
Or even like you get up one day and you're like, okay, I don't feel like doing this today. Like, God, I am not sure what I'm doing. What is it? What is one thing that you go to? Because I know we have things as fasting, we have things as spending time in the Word, we have things as picking up a book. It could be self-development, listening to a podcast. What tools do you use to get you motivated or to get you in that creative space?
Yeah, I get you. So for me, I would say, man, I would really just say, especially the Lord. The Lord is probably my biggest motivator. I think just whenever I get mad or when I get down or just, discouraged, it's like as soon as I start praying, and just having that intimacy with the Lord and Him, the Lord's voice, just speaking to me, Him speaking to me and encouraging me. And I'd say breathing life into me, encouraging me and uplifting me and just I'd say that's really what does it for me. I'm also a self-riser, so I would say also because of the fact that I really am like, man, like we've been given this time on earth for a reason, and I really want to make good use of it. So every day, I just really have it in my mind, like, man, I got to do something. I got to do something to move myself, push the needle further today than I was yesterday. So I'd say a strong will and desire to be successful, but mostly just the Lord encouraging me and pursuing Him through prayer, church, and that Bible reading as well.
Yeah. I'm just going to pause there for a minute. You said self-riser, right?
Yeah,
So, and your definition for self-riser is someone who motivates themselves,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right? Oh, I really like that. I feel like I have to have to write it down. I really like that. I'm a self-riser because the first when you said that, I'm like, okay, he gets up at 5 a.m., right?
Oh, oh, oh,
Right?
oh,
So, but then the
oh,
more when you were explaining your stuff, I'm like, oh, I like that. You're a self-riser. So I know I've never heard the term before.
really?
So yeah. So I really like that you get to, you're self-riser. So you motivate yourself. You're like, oh, I got to get this done today and stuff like that. What, w- are there any times where you feel broken or as a
Oh,
man?
yeah.
Because as a man, there are times where you feel pressured. Like I'm currently reading a book right now, The Man, the Moment Demands.
Hmm.
So as a man, say it again.
That sounds like a good book to read.
Yeah. And I've read quite a few books on I guess masculinity, but healthy masculinity.
That's good.
And it has come to my attention, and I have a 17-year-old son too.
Mm,
So it has come to my attention that you men, especially when it comes to your um emotional well-being, it's overlooked,
yeah, yeah, sure.
right? So for my male audience that is looking and watching this podcast and listening, because a few of them are Christian,
Oh no.
what do you do when you're broken? You feel broken inside.
Yeah, yeah, that's certainly a great question. And sometimes I think it can be kind of loaded. I would say for sure, man, when I'm broken, especially prayer, prayer especially is what uplifts me. There've been so many times, I say for me where I've have been broken, at times. Um, just coming up, I think just life's challenges sometimes, things happening. But yeah, just when I pray, and actually to that point, it's funny you say that because as a matter of fact, I'd say my low point in life, which was like 2019 when I was in college, just starting college actually, just got out of high school. Um, it was like a lot of voices and what have you, just a lot of voices I kept hearing from other people about who I should be and what I should be, what I should do, what I shouldn't do. And I was really just kind of drowning in that, and it was already just such a different time trying to start a new challenge like college or something where sometimes, I mean, of course, it's good for, someone else to lead you and guide you at the same time and to try to point you in the right direction. But that especially is a time of, like self-discovery and self-transformation. And I think it's really important. I feel like, man, I wouldn't be who I am today either without going to school and just what I saw there and being around different people and hearing professors speak who are intelligent. But to put it best, I would say prayer, just talking to the Lord and him encouraging me and just me pouring out my feelings and just my heart to him and just talking to him, like telling him just everything I really feel, what's hurting me, why, and asking the Lord for clarity and to show me the right way. Also talking to like good family members and cousins and friends, who are of positive influence has been very helpful. I found just talking to others who are sometimes those who are older than me and just in general, just anyone else who is a positive influence who was also on the right track as a person, just different things that they knew that I didn't know at the time, different ways of thinking, for staying positive and like different understandings that maybe I didn't know because we all have our own life experiences and we have what we have. But someone else who had their life experiences, they're gonna have something different from you because their experience was different somehow, some way. So with all that being said, it all just really imparted something in me. And yeah, I'm so much better of a person today because of all of that.
Wow, great. I love your story. Where can people find and reach you on Instagram?
Yeah, people can find and reach me on official_DFrank. That's my page for like all the music and what have you, and everything music related, everything DFrank music related. I also have a Twitter. I know it's rebranded to X now, but official_DFrank. And I may even expand onto TikTok soon as well for that as well.
I highly suggest, because I do content creating at the side, but I highly suggest you get onto TikTok. You'll get more reach there. So
Yeah.
if anyone else is watching, definitely if you're on Instagram, you want to be on TikTok as well,
Okay, absolutely.
right? And also YouTube.
Yeah, I got to get better at utilizing YouTube as well. I also have that. It's I think DFrank Music, something like that. I can send a link, but my link is
Yeah.
at mine as well for anyone who reaches my Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah. So I would link your Instagram on the recording, so
Yeah,
others can reach you and stuff like that. But
wonderful.
David, oh my God, thank you for your time. Thank you for your encouraging words. I'm hoping that other young men watch this episode and get some inspiration from you of just being grounded in Christ and in prayer and knowing that, you know, you're still following your dreams, but you're following it with Him at
That's
your
right.
side.
Yeah.
And I think what I can really take away from this episode too, as a parent and any parent watching, this is what the fruits look like
Oh,
when you raise your children this
yeah.
way. So
Oh.
your parents should be super proud of you. But thank you
Yeah.
so much for coming on, and I hope I could have you back on for another episode.
Absolutely. I'd be honored to. Thank you so much as well. It's been a
All
pleasure.
right.